Wasabi guys, right in the middle of a game here. This is M15 Magic Duels of the Planeswalkers. I believe that's what it was called. I don't know. Came out like a couple years ago, and I like it better than Duels. I don't know. I just like the fact that you can go here and play a 4-player test duel here. This is awesome. I love it. I really do, and I wish that they brought it back, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about why the Commander format is the best format. Now, you could make arguments, Pauper's cheap, it's affordable, and it's a great way to teach new players how to play the game. And you could make the argument that, drafting's really awesome. If you love limited, go for it. If you love modern, if you love legacy, if you love vintage, go for it. But when it comes to Commander, EDH, there's really no difference at this point. It's just branding. I mean, come on. People that nitpick over whether it's Commander or EDH, you don't want to hang around those people. So basically, Commander has many benefits, and I'm going to go through this entire video just talking about those benefits and comparing it to other formats at the same time. Now, if you're not aware, a lot of cards in the Commander format this is considered eternal. So you have cards that range all the way back from Alpha, and you have cards playable all the way to the current set, which is Hour of Devastation. So you have that whole pool of cards that you can play with, and obviously this excludes the ban list, which has that same range. Now, the main reason why I'm bringing this up is because of the reserve list, and there are complaints about people that can't get into Legacy because of the reserve list. Vintage has died a long time ago. No one's playing it because of the reserve list, and it's pretty much just online now. So you would think that this would have a negative impact on Commander. That is not the case. Commander is a casual format. You do not have any sort of professional support yet, except for Dual Commander, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the multiplayer geared format that everybody can just have fun and play with. And there are cards that are banned, and just look at the ban list. I'm not going to go over every fucking card on the ban list right now because this is a different video, and I wanted to talk about just how the ban list, or the reserve list I mean, has very little impact on Commander, and why Commander cards just have no impact or very little impact on the pricings of certain cards. Now this isn't always like the case, because you have certain cards. I think Doubling Season is a prime example of a card that is expensive because it sees a ton of play in Commander, and it's just, I don't know, it's one of those harder to find cards as well. But when it comes to the reserve list, I think people have this misconception that it's all bad. With Commander, you have many benefits, and you have this benefit of there's so much diversity in the format to where people aren't so focused on playing the most competitive decks. And there's so much diversity in terms of the player style, and you have new players as well as old players, and not a lot of the old players play reserveless cards either. You would have there's this misconception here that the most experienced players like to play the most competitive decks. That's not the case. A lot of times it's more or less just having the most versatile, most interactive deck. That comes to mind whenever I think of just experience. It's being able to play with timing. And when I think of commanders like that, I think of Breya and Derevi. Those are two of my favorites because they're very interactive, and there's so much decision making that goes into those decks, those commander types right there. And you also have some other options as well, but those are two that come to mind here. And you have such a diversity in this format when it comes to choosing a commander. You can go old school, you can go with the Elder Dragons, or you can go with the newest legendary. You could go with a Razaketh if you wanted to. You could go with Neheb the Eternal. Those are two new legendaries. Or you could wait till next month here when we're going to get Commander 2017 and choose from that. Which comes to the next point I'm about to bring up here. It's the fact that Commander has its own pre-constructed products, and they're actually really fucking good. They're so awesome to the point where now the MSRP, or the EV for each individual box, or not each individual one, but for specific decks, like say the Atraxa one, is doubled in EV or doubled MSRP, whatever. Basically, they're retaining value or gaining value, and they have a ton of playable cards. It's not like anything that we've had before with pre-constructed products. It's always been throw in a bunch of bulk and maybe have one or two cards that might be worth it, but usually we had those intro decks, we had those Planeswalker decks, and they all just sat on the shelves. Nobody played them, nobody wanted them, and very few people actually ever purchased them. And it was supposed to be a good way for new players to get into the game, but it usually ended up just giving them just bulk crap, maybe limited playability, but who the hell cares? It's just not good at all. Nobody wanted them, and it came to the point where they had to put packs into them to actually make it worth buying it, because the EV was just terrible. And you're talking maybe like, I forget how they even priced the intro decks. I think they might have been like $10-15 if I'm remembering correctly, but even then it's still not worth it, because you could just go on tcgplayer.com and just buy $10 worth of cards and you'd actually save a lot of money and actually get useful shit. Who would have thought? But yeah, with the pre-constructed products for Commander, it is 1,000 times better than anything else they've made pre-constructed. I mean, I guarantee you. And it's the newest thing too. It's so new, and it's growing at a rapid rate. Everybody's coming into it now, and you have new players that are being introduced into Magic, not just Commander, but Magic through Commander, and you just have this benefit of it's so interesting, and it sort of takes that whole RPG element. You know, we're talking about Dungeons and Dragons and how much Magic was sort of inspired from that, that whole tabletop gaming aspect, that you have this RPG element that you take a commander, and it's almost like, you know, you're playing with that commander, you are that commander, and the rest of your deck is basically a part of yourself, if I had to be honest. It's really just customization and making a deck a part of yourself, the most comfortable for your play style, whatever you want to do, and that's just amazing. With so many other formats, when we look at Standard, when we look at Legacy, to be competitive, you know, you're going to give up that big element there of just customization and making something personal to you. And I feel like when you look at the formats, the super competitive formats, the moderns, you don't have that flexibility as often. Are there rogue decks? Are there decks that are on that fringe there of being super competitive and hyper competitive? Yeah, of course. You can come out of nowhere and just win with a deck. You know, if you're one of those innovators and you just come out of nowhere with a certain strategy, yeah, you can make something really cool, and it's basically going to be known as that's your deck. And, you know, I'm clapping my hands for you. You know, you deserve some applause there. But definitely when we talk about Commander, everybody has this ability to customize something and make something personal to themselves. You know, if you're going to go and play Modern and you're going to play Living End, well, join the club. You know how many other people are going to be playing Living End? A ton. Grixis Death's Shadow, how many people are going to be playing that? A ton. So in Commander, if you were to go to an FNM where they happen to be playing Commander, and this is even applicable to 1v1 dual commander, you're still not going to see a ton of the same commanders. You might, but for the most part it's going to be different. And even if you happen to see the same commanders, you're more than likely going to see different decks, or even completely different decks. So even if decks happen to have similar cards, the playstyle may be different enough to where it's a different deck altogether. And I think that's not something that people bring up enough about it, the customization, mainly because people say, well, you can deck build in other formats. Deck building is really the main reason why I love Commander. You have so many different options, and you have a ton of cards to choose from, and you can really go with that rogue strategy and just dominate games. You can find a way to put in cards that nobody knows about, and it's already, the fact that this is a singleton format, it already promotes the idea of just diversity and making a deck less consistent in order to make the games more fun and entertaining, less predictable. That's really the intention, and it's sort of going to up the difficulty, especially for those who have problems deck building. Now you have tools like EDHREC.com where you can just look at decks, and you can go on Tapped Out, copy and paste a deck list. Who cares? I don't do that. I think honestly, Tapped Out is mainly just a place where you put your own deck lists and so forth, but really that is why I just absolutely love this format. It's because deck building, it's really something I always loved about it, and I love Limited, I love Draft, I love Sealed, I love just making my own decks, period. But when it comes to Commander, you really get this feeling that it sort of embodies that RPG element that, you know, D&D does, and it's really cool that you have that element there. And I can make, say, a Vampire Tribal deck, and it actually feels really cool having a Vampire Tribal deck with, say, Olivia Voldaren. I mean, that's flavorful, that's awesome, I love it. You can go artifacts, play Breya, and just have a deck filled with cool artifacts. I mean, you have this flavor, and it's just so awesome. You could play Wizard Tribal, you could play Elf Tribal, you could play Goblin Tribal. I mean, and it's not just the tribals, it's just the flavor and just the synergy and having all these different cards, the singleton format, the fact that you have so many cards that synergize. I mean, that's just amazing. I absolutely love it, and I cannot say it enough about how much I just love this format, and I think it's honestly good to introduce new players into the game through Commander. You could obviously use Pauper if you're on a budget. You could also introduce them to the game through Draft or Sealed or whatever, just Limited in general. Cube, who knows. Definitely, though, I'd have to say that Commander is the absolute best way, because you can just pay $35, hand them a deck, and the pre-constructed products are already so very well-rounded, and they give you a ton of options, so you're not going to just be letting them hang out to dry by giving them a $35 pre-con deck. Hell, if I get these and if I see someone who wants to play the game, I might just say, hey, here, have this deck. You can start playing the Commander format now. You want some D20s? You know, you want some D6s? You know, here you go. That's all you need. There you go, buddy. Now you can start playing with us at the big kids table. You're welcome. Courtesy of Void, you get yourself a free Commander deck, and you get to play the best format in the entire game. And I absolutely love that. It makes for great gifts too, you know, $35. I love it. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me in this video. I'll probably touch on this topic again in the future, maybe comparing Pauper to other formats, who knows. But let me know what you think about Commander. Do you absolutely love it? Will you recommend it to your friends? Will you grow this community further? Or will you let it shrivel up and die? That probably will never happen, but it's worth it. It's worth just saying there just to spark your interest into helping other people get into it, so maybe they'll grow even faster. But anyway, thank you guys for supporting my channel, and thank you for watching this video. Void here, signing off. You guys have a wonderful day.